Fly podcast, a Financial Literacy Institute podcast. Man, we have a super special guest tonight, but equally as special as our guest, we have Mr. Tyrone Johnson, our FLI ambassador for our first podcast tonight. Tyrone, how are you doing?
I'm feeling pretty good. Busy night, but I'm glad to be able to hop on here, escape for a little bit, join this conversation.
Man, no, I love it. I love it. I know this is going to be a fire episode because not only is this Tyrone's first episode that he's on, but again, we have an amazing guest, which Tyrone and I personally know. And just to kind of give a high level overview of who our guest is, it's very awesome because I've known this man for a while now, watching some of his content, but actually meeting him in person in Miami, Florida, having really good conversations, conversations that I never thought I would have with anybody. It was a really special moment, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about. We may or may not get into that later. We'll see where the conversations go. But we have an amazing individual who just, as Tyrone and I were talking about off camera before we got on, like a jack of all trades. He's just killing it. He's able to, manage all these things successfully, and he looks good while doing it. So tonight we have Christopher King. Again, Chris, I know you very well. Tyrone knows you very well, but for our listeners, kind of a high level overview. What's your elevator pitch? Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, got to get that elevator pitch. I'm gonna try to condense it down. But my name is Christopher King. From New Orleans, Louisiana. I am an attorney. I'm an athlete. I'm an author. I'm an artist. I'm a football coach. I'm a trainer. I literally do a little bit of everything, right? But most importantly, I'm just a servant of Jesus Christ, man. My goal is to be and do everything that God has called me to do on this earth. Now, He's, allowed me to be in a bunch of different arenas, so I got to maximize it. I got to maximize it.
And that's so admirable. Like, it's so interesting because, again, you probably have gotten this so many times, but like, you are not only a man of jack of all trade, and you're a follower of God, and you do it in the most, beautiful way. But then it's like, you carry this image about yourself with all this confidence. And again, for young guys like Tyrone and I, we admire that and we love that about you. So we want to appreciate you for being, a positive role model. And kind of really to start us off, can you kind of bring us back to when you were back in school? Because if you don't already know, our demographic is people who are 5 to 10 years older than us and 5 to 10 years younger than us. And really, we don't only just teach finances; we teach mindset, we teach motivation. So what was Chris King doing back in the day, back in college? Like, were you that big partier guy, getting to know everybody? Or were you simultaneously like grinding, putting in the work, and kind of setting yourself up for the future? Kind of bring us back to the college days.
Man, the college days, bro.
The college days.
Man, I'm not gonna lie, man. My college days was probably different from most, right?
Okay.
And that's probably where I really learned this whole jack of all trades kind of thing, right? So when I was in college, my goal was the NFL. Like, that was my sole focus, right? And then me and one of my best friends, we had this kind of pact before we went into college to, eliminate all distractions, right? So that means no drinking, no smoking, and no sex, right?
Wow.
So we decided to take all that time we would be doing all that, and we would grind. So literally, and I'm not exaggerating, 2 to 3 times a day, I would be working out. I would be studying film. I would be stretching. I would be doing everything I possibly can to put myself in the best position to succeed, right? Because unfortunately, I'm not 6'6" and I don't run a 4.2. So I had to find something that was going to give me an edge over the competition, right? And for me, it was eliminating distraction, getting laser focused. So literally, I was one of the leaders in FCA. I was in my fraternity, Alpha Alpha Incorporated. I was on the honor roll, right? A's and B's, on an academic scholarship as well. I was starting on my football team, right? Led my team in interceptions my junior year, right? What else I was doing? I was in a business fraternity as well. I was serving on campus. And then, like, I was still enjoying the college life to a certain extent, right? For me, I was never like the big partier type. I don't really like going to clubs. That's just not my kind of thing. So, like, being an alpha, obviously you got to step out a little bit. So I would literally go to the parties, stroll a little bit, and I would dip, right? And for me, I actually found it was kind of a good thing because, women would see me and they'd be like, oh man, who's this alpha strolling? And then he would, y'all got me? You still good?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. And then I would dip and they'd be like, man, who was this dude? Right. So it would kind of leave like a little mystery with it. So I was hey, that was kind of my life, right? I was laser focused. I didn't really have many distractions. To be honest, I don't want to say didn't talk to women, but I didn't like really date any women seriously really until like my end of my senior year, to be honest. Like, man, I was almost obsessed with the NFL. Like, that was the goal. So yeah, I had a different type of work ethic, not even gonna lie.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much mad respect that's coming off of what I'm about to say. But like my thing is that again, you're doing all these things. And again, you got the swagger. Like you got the look. So you're saying that you were able to navigate all this, but then be able to limit your distractions. So what are some of the tangible things that you did? Because I know again, there's a lot of guys, Tyron and I, we know the guys. We know the guys who are trying their best to limit their distractions. Sometimes they crumble under pressure. Sometimes they give in, right? So what were the tangible things that you did? I'm curious, like whether it was time management or whether it was, surrounding yourself with the right people. What were the tangible things that you did to limit those distractions?
Well, I think first of all, like for me, I think God he kind of formed me in such a way that like I had to, right? Like I said, I'm not 6'6". I don't run a 4.2. So it's like the only way I could compete with some of these guys that's phenomenal athletes was like I had to work. Like I wasn't about to get, go on the field and get toasted every 5 seconds. That's just not in me. So I was like, man, I gotta find a way to work and to compete, right? And for me, the only way was to do that was to eliminate distractions, control what I can control, right? Now, I think one of the first parts is having accountability groups, right? But here's how God did it. So my whole freshman year, I was almost isolated, right? So I had kind of like friction with some of my teammates. They didn't really buy the whole virgin thing. They was calling me gay, like a whole bunch of stuff. So I was like, forget it. I don't need nobody. I'm just going to get in the zone. I'm going to grind. So literally my whole freshman year, I was like in this like kind of isolated state to where all I was doing is working, right?
You're locked in,
I didn't have a whole lot of clout, right? I wasn't a big man on campus. Nobody really knew me. So I was just grinding, right? Now, after that season, after I learned and kind of developed of how to move in that, God brought men around me that, no, okay, this is what you're supposed to do it with. So I had men that's going to be in my wedding to this day. They were doing life with me, right? And they were trying to abstain. Some of them played football. Someone was in a band. We was going to FCA, BCM, Bible study together. We was doing all these things together to where now we encouraged each other, right? And it really did a huge difference in, one, my time management, but two, also holding myself accountable, right? Because you can say all day, man, I want to get to the league. I want to get to the league, right? But if every time it's time to go work out, you chilling playing video games, bro, you don't really want to go to the league, right? So I had one guy, one of the very few men that challenged my work ethic, right? I knew if I wasn't working, he was working, right? And that made me take it to a whole nother level to be like, man, Chris, you got to get it. And it got almost to the point where like, I wouldn't even tell him I'm working out. So we had this thing like, the DBs and the receivers, obviously everybody on football team, they want to get better. So they'd be, hey, man, we about to go do some one-on-ones or whatever, right? I'd be like, all right, cool, I'm down. So me personally, this is how I think, I would go to the field an hour and a half earlier, get my workout in, stay there, compete with them, and then stay after. And then stay after, right? So I was like, because you know how it is, when everybody's out there, they're playing, they get some work in, some not. But I was like, no, I got to make sure I get my real work in. I come, compete, have fun, and then I stay focused, right? The work gonna get done with or without you. If they gonna come, if they not gonna come, the work's still gonna get done, right? And I think you have to just be motivated, right? Like you have to really be motivated to see what you really want out of life, right? Like what do you really want?
No, this is good.
Sorry about that, man. People just all of a sudden want to call every 5 seconds now.
You're good. Again, you're a jack of all trades, so you're a
busy man.
Busy man. And so, the thing that I'm really interested about is that, the thing that you are is you're a lawyer by trade. but yet again, you're able to do all these things while being a very respectable lawyer by trade. And again, very admirable, and we love that. But then obviously, again, we talked about this in one of the standard master classes. One of the things you're really working on is your digital presence. So maybe if you can talk about that, maybe your goals with that, and even maybe some tips and tricks for people in our space who want to become content creators.
Yeah, most definitely, man. I think that's one avenue God is kind of leading me towards, right? Whether it's the modeling, the acting, and having a presence on social media. Me, I think it just comes from my creative, being an artist, and I just love kind of taking a picture and making it dope, or making a video and making it like dope. I kind of look at it as like a game, right? What can I do? How can I be so creative and get people to not necessarily just buy into what I'm selling, but to really hit home with people, right? To really impact people through social media, through a post, through a message, right? So I think the first thing is, just to give some tips that I've learned over the years, and I'm no guru or nothing, but I'm learning, is to find your niche, right? You have to find what you're good at. And for me, that's a little hard because I do so many different things, but I think that's part of my niche, right? The fact that I can do a whole bunch of different things, right? But find what you're good at, right? Find what you're good at and research people that are doing well in that field, right? What kind of content are they posting? How are they editing their pictures? What kind of quality are their pictures starting to do, right? The information is always out there. You got to be willing to go out and search for it and find it, right? There was a point when I really made a decision. I was like, I'm not posting no more pictures unless it's a high quality picture. Unless it's a high quality video, I'm not posting no more. And look, that includes now the selfies are on a whole nother level. But back then, like the selfies was like blurry and trash and stuff. So I was like, you know what? I'm not posting none of that. If it's not a high quality picture, I'm just not gonna have no content to post, right? And what helped me was, especially being in shape and being in fitness, man, photographers, they always shoot women, right? It's super easy. It's flooded with women, but they want to build their profile more, and they want to expand to men. So I was like, you know what? I got the look. I'm getting the following. Let's collab. You practice on me. I get some content. It's a win-win, right?
Win-win, yeah.
So I did that. I reached out to people that was like, yeah, man, I got a session. We can go. We can shoot a little bit. We can do here, do here. Man, I'm gonna be honest. And it's a little. They might kill me, but to be honest, I didn't like pay for a shoot until like I graduated from law school. That might have been the first time I actually paid for a photo shoot. But hey, you got to add value to them, and they're gonna add value to you. But I would say find your niche, start shooting, connect with photographers, shoot as much as you possibly can, and then have fun with it.
Yeah,
that's have
true.
fun with it. You have to have fun with it. And then scratch that. I'll add another one. It would be adding value. You have to add value to people, right? Whether it's a look, whether it's selling a dream to women, whether it's adding financial advice or spiritual advice or comedy or whatever it is, you have to add value. Why should they follow you? Right? Everybody wants the bunch of followers and a bunch of likes, but what are you giving them? What are you offering? Right. You got to make sure it's worth it.
Yeah. No, that's a good way to look at it. And I think, finding your niche, I think it's in a way that it might be like so outrageous. Like, I don't think there's a space for this, but because you might be the pioneer of this space, you might be creating content that's wanted, but not many people are in. And then if you are just better than those few people who are in that niche, you can already be top of that niche. It's very interesting. I thought about that the other day when I was actually looking into this. So no, I couldn't agree more. And kind of what we're doing is, we understand that the financial literacy market's a little bit saturated, but we also understand that, again, people our age, it's like, how can we convey this information that's fun, that's short form, that can catch their attention in less than 7 seconds? Because if you don't, next, right? Because we understand we're not new to this space, right? You got the Robert Kiyosaki's, the Dave Ramsey's, and the list goes on. But I think we're very much focused on, again, people our age. How can we make it cool? How can we jive with them? And someone how you probably know very well, and we would love to have on the podcast, Anthony O'Neill, and just the way he conveys that message on social media. That's exactly kind of what we're doing. So no, I love that. I absolutely love that. So in terms of finance, I'm gonna stay there now. What were some of the things maybe you did back then, or even you're doing now, to set yourself up for the future, whether it's, certain investments, whether it's, all the ways you're managing your money in terms of even maybe all your income sources. And again, we don't have to get into numbers, but just like, what are the things that you're doing to make sure that, you are set up financially? So again, our listeners can listen and be like, oh, wait, hold on. If Chris is doing this, I got to make sure I tap into this. What are some things that you're doing financially?
Well, I guess you can say I kind of cheated a little bit because like my dad, man, the vision that he had before me and my brother and my sister was even existed, right, was next level, right? So my dad did an amazing job of creating a foundation for us, right? My dad's an attorney. My dad owns a whole lot of properties. My dad, talking about the jack of trades, he does it all. He's a professor. He does this. He does that. He does a whole bunch of different things. So watching him, I kind of learned that's kind of where I get the whole jack of all trades from, and having income from multiple sources of places, as well as being a hustler, right? One thing about me, man, I didn't necessarily go selling CDs on the street or nothing, but I would always find a way to hustle, right? Whether it was selling my art, whether it was doing social media for other people, or doing podcasts, or doing shoots, or shooting people, or doing literally anything you can think of that's in my kind of lane. I've probably done it before, right? And got paid to do it, right? And I think from college to especially all the way through the process to now, God has been building the foundation, right? I wouldn't say I'm no millionaire or nothing yet, but he's definitely been giving me, and I can see it, right? He's been giving me the ideas. He's been surrounding me with the right people. He's been giving me the right exposure, right? He's been blessing me with a opportunity to develop the right skills, right? So when that time does come, I feel like it's going to be a snowball effect, right? I would say investing is extremely important, right? But not just investing, because people invest in a whole bunch of different things, right? And it works for a whole bunch of different people. But just invest in something that you're passionate about, right? Like if you're not passionate about real estate, then you can probably throw some money in it. But man, invest what you love to do, right? What you're interested in, what you're going to dive into, what you're going to have knowledge and wisdom about, right? Don't just be throwing money. And look, it could work, it could not work. I'm not saying it can't, but try to really know about it before you just throw money at it, right?
That's good.
Invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. I think that's probably the most important thing. Investing in yourself first, right? Getting all the money and all these accolades and stuff is great, but if you don't have the character, the honor, the integrity, man, to be honest, it's going to do more damage in the long run than it will be a blessing, right? So I think God has took me through this. I call it the silent season, right? I say everybody, you look through Jesus, you look at everybody in the Bible, you look successful men, they had to go through these seasons where they were silent, right? They just had to grind. Nobody knew their name. They were overlooked, maybe undervalued, and they had to work in that, right? You had to know how to move and had to operate in that. And as you do that, God develops your character. He develops your honor. He develops your character, your integrity. He develops your skills. So when that time does come and he puts you in second command, or he puts you to CEO over this, or that one idea you had pops, then you know how to sustain it, right? And you know where it came from. I think that's really important. You know exactly the blessing, where that blessing came from. I know a lot of times, in today's society, there's this thing going around. I'm a self-made man. I made it. I did this. There's no human being on this earth is a self-made man. We all needed help, right? And especially if you're a spiritual person, it was God that equipped you and with the opportunities and the skills to do that.
Yeah. I love that you just said that, because Tyrone, we were literally just talking about earlier this week that the opportunity that you just got with your new, co-op, you were saying, which again, I know you, and I know you've been consistent with the things that you've been doing, but you made and it's so interesting that Chris just said this, because I almost said this to you when you said the other day, you were like, oh, I've been consistent and it was all me. I did this by myself, which is, to a degree true, but then also what Chris is saying, again, God was in your corner. People were helping you, polishing you. So I almost made that exact same comment that Chris is saying, is like, Tyrone, even though you earned this, it was not just yourself. Like everybody was helping you. Yes, you stayed consistent on Tyrone's time, but then God was helping you in your corner, right? So no, I love that you said that, Chris. And I know, yeah, with what Tyrone just went through, like I know he could probably even attest that. He's about to say something like
Yeah,
he's
no,
killing it.
absolutely. It's one of those things that I think a lot of times when, when that self-made man, kind of comes in, you forget about, those little things that people did to kind of help you get to that next level. And so it's about being humble enough to kind of turn around and give back and give credit where it's due in that aspect. So I definitely attest to what, both of you are saying in terms of that example. And so my question to you would be, Chris, who were those people? I know you mentioned your accountability partner, coming into college, but even after graduating, who were some of those people that kind of helped you in some of these other areas that you mentioned?
That's a long list. That's a long list.
Let's talk about it.
Break it down a little bit.
No, for real. But so I would say one, my dad. Like my dad, man, and I know, man, I'm just blessed, right? I'm blessed to have my father in my life that was not only there but present, right, and invested in me, right, in all different aspects, and held me to a high standard at that as well, right. He taught me, man, there's meaning in my last name, right? And my last name is King, and there's meaning in that, right? So just from like a self-confidence, a self-worth standpoint, like he kind of set that foundation, right? And then from my cousins that are attorneys, right? My aunt that's an attorney, from the men that has challenged me physically, right, through football and trying to get to the NFL, and it held me accountable in that aspect. To my spiritual mentors, right, from high school, my trainer, to college and undergrad, to my men's group now, right, to FCA camps. Like there's so many men. I say this all the time. I am who I am because of the men God put around me. Period. You know what I mean? I stand tall because I stand on the shoulders of giants. Period. Right. I literally cannot take credit for any of these things. And through financial literacy, right, and showing me, hey, you should do it this way, or think about this, or do this, right, to spiritual life, to say, nah, Chris, you're off on that, right, or yeah, keep going that way. I know where you're in. Keep working, keep serving. You're in that season. Keep working at it, right. Through just being a man, right, and understanding, man, as a man, you have to be held accountable for your actions, right? To being a responsible man, to being able to be self-aware of yourself, right, and honest with yourself, to treat women with honor and respect at all times. I think all these principles and things that men have poured into me, man, that's why I am who I am, to be honest.
Blessing, yeah.
And then like it's my responsibility to pay it forward.
Absolutely.
Right. That's why I coach football. That's why part of my purpose is building up kings. Right. Because I have to pour it into these young men to let them know, man, like you can do it this way. Right. And be successful and look the part and live your life based on God's principles and have the swag and have the look and be successful and have the career and do all these different things. Right. To let them know that it's possible. You don't have to be a rapper. You don't have to be a drug dealer. You don't have to even be a ball player, right? Like you can do it in other avenues and kind of trailblaze for it, right?
Yeah. No, wow, there's so many layers to this, and this is so good. And the biggest thing that stuck out to me is, when you're talking about your accountability partners and they're telling you, hey, they're keeping it real with you, whether you like it or not. Hey, Chris, shouldn't be tapping into that. Or Chris, no, even though you want to quit, no, stick with that, right? And I love that. And this is exactly why Tyrone's actually my best friend. And I think we talked about this, off camera, like texting a while back, and just like this man, the amount of accountability I've gotten from this individual right who was on this podcast is just surreal. And I appreciate him. So I'm just giving my guy flowers because everything you're saying, Chris, like this is my guy here. So Tyrone, I appreciate it. I just want to say that.
Versa. Trust me. Yeah, it goes both ways, man. We talk to each other with a lot of stuff. So.
I appreciate you.
And it's crazy. So, that's why I always tell people, man, like, that's why, like, I understand, hey, everybody doesn't have to college. I get that. But, man, college is a place to where you can meet somebody like that, right? That comes from maybe a completely different background, completely different state or whatever, that can click with you. And God says, no, y'all were divinely supposed to be together, right? And iron sharpens iron. We hear it all the time, right? So man, like that, you can't recreate that kind of college experience, right? In that college environment, right? And that opportunity to meet so many different people and to grow in so many different areas, right? And I love the fact that y'all connected in college, right? Or before in high school.
In college,
Yeah, man, like that's it, bro. Like that is it. And I think I really want to encourage men to do that, right? And to step out of their comfort zone, because it may be a little uncomfortable at first, right? You know, guys, and you know, they got people that want to see you fail, and they got people that got other agendas, and they got a whole bunch of other stuff too, right? Yeah. But to find somebody that vision is similar, right? That can hold you accountable, that's worth ethic is on that different level, that can pour into you, and you can pour into them as well. Man, you can't beat that.
No, that's real. And again, I completely attest to this because again, this individual right here, it's really priceless. So I appreciate that, Chris. And you know, one thing now I want to pivot to, and this is really good, and you talked a little bit about it, is you know, being able to, well, you talk, you know, I know we've talked about this in Miami, but even just being a good steward of, you know, what you have. So I really want to, you know, dive into this conversation because I think for a lot of our listeners, yes, they want to be able to understand money and maybe manage money, but I think it's even more important to be a good steward of what you have, whether it's money, whether it's relationships, whether it's opportunities, whatever it is, to be able to be a good steward. So can you kind of talk about, you know, what that has done for you, you know, what your recommendation for other people are, and really just what that actually means to be a good steward of something?
Yeah. Well, I think first we have to just break down, like, what does that mean, right? And
yeah, that's good.
So God calls us to be good stewards over everything He's blessed us with, right? And the reality of it is we don't own anything. You don't own your house. You don't own your wife. You don't own your kids. You don't own the money that's in your bank. You don't own anything. Everything is it's really just a loan from God. Right? God is allowing you to possess these things so that you can be a good steward and you can build His kingdom and you can have impact in this world, right? So if we understand it that way, when God says, hey, I need you to give, you know, $10 to this person, I need you to give $1,000 to this person, I need you to give $100,000 to this person, right? If you understand you're a good steward, if God is telling you to do this, I'm not blanking. Here it is, right? But if you're not a good steward, you're thinking, oh, it's mine. It's mine. I worked for this. I did this. I did this. I did this. I did this. And it's like, okay, cool. You're not ready yet. Right. And even with your wife or even with your kids or even with your relationships, right? God calls us to be a good steward, right? How do we be a good steward, right? God calls us as men is to be cultivators, right? Yeah. What does that mean? To be a cultivator is to make things around you better, right? To bring out the best in it. Right. So our job when we're being good steward is to make the people around us, make the environment around us better. Right. Now, you only can do that if you're at a certain level. Right.
Yeah.
If you're, you know, undisciplined, if you're, you know, chasing after every girl trying to have sex, if you're blowing your money on gambling or this or that, there's no way you can make the people and things in an environment around you better. Period. So one, you have to make sure, and that's the silent season, right? You got to make sure that you're in a position, in a place, in a heart posture to where you can be a good steward over the things. And then God is going to give you an opportunity to do that, right? Have y'all ever been in a situation where God has blessed you with an opportunity and you fumbled it, right? Like God has blessed you with an opportunity, whether it was a relationship, whether it was a woman, whether it was a new deal, or whether it was a whatever, right? And you fumbled it. I could think of one, and I can kind of relate it to football, right? So there was one year God told me, and He told me, He was like, you're going to have 8 picks this year, right? He was going to have 8 picks a year. Keep it to yourself. You're going to have 8 picks a year. Don't tell nobody, right?
Wow.
Me being immature, right?
You told people, yeah.
Right? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm going to have 8 picks this year. I'm going to be All-American. I'm going to do this, X, Y, and Z, yada, 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 all this good stuff, right? And I didn't really think about it, right? Because I was in the moment, right? And I was just excited, right? I mean, you're excited.
Right.
I was excited about getting 8 picks and being All-American, all these blessings, right? But as the season went on, I ended up catching 4, dropping 5. So I literally would have been All-American, but, and I really think because I was undisciplined, and when God said, shut up, I was yapping my mouth, right? So I wasn't a good steward over it, right? I wasn't a good steward over the vision that he entrusted me with,
Mhm.
right? So, because
Yeah.
sometimes God's going to entrust you with a vision and say, shut up and don't tell nobody, right? Because if we're being honest, the devil doesn't know everything, not to get too spiritual, but the devil doesn't know everything. Sometimes he only knows it when you start talking, right?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
talking, and now he start moving things to, all right, I'm going to make sure you don't do this. I'm going to put a distraction here. I'm going to put this here, right? But if you just shut up and allow God to move, man, you would have just walked smooth sailing into it, right? So that's a lesson that I had to learn, that I kind of fumbled the bag because I wasn't a good steward over something that God entrusted me with, right? So, and I know, like, you know, being young and being in college, you're going to make mistakes, right? You're going to make mistakes. But if we, being older, we can pour into y'all and let y'all know, man, when God says do something, it's wise to try to do it the best you can his way, right? And be a good steward over the things that he entrusted you with, right? It's kind of like the parable of the talents. I don't know if y'all ever heard of that, right?
Yeah.
He gave one person, the king gave one person one, you gave the one person two, and the other person three, I think, right?
Yeah,
And
we went
five.
to
I think it
church
was
for that.
five.
Remember, we talked about this in September. It was a sowing season. Remember this? We talked about this, Tyrone. It was the
That's
church.
it. That's
Yeah,
it.
So
yeah,
your joy, I said
One
your joy.
person
yeah.
doubled, the other person doubled, the other person
Double.
buried.
Double,
Who was a good
double.
steward?
Yep.
They buried
He
it.
buried
They
it.
buried
Yep.
it.
Who was a good steward, right? It's about
Right.
taking what God gives you, the blessings, the gifts, the skills, the relationships, right? And
Yeah.
cultivating those and making them flourish.
Mhm.
That's what it's about. And I think as soon as we can do that as men, especially young men, man, we're going to be able to see so many blessings that God has for us.
Right. Because then that
And
turns into more as well. Yeah.
Hey,
double,
y'all
double.
heard the saying, faith
Yeah.
flow with you, he'll make you ruler over many.
Absolutely.
That's real, man. You know, and this is just so good. This is so good, and in the sense that, like, when you were talking about this, it really just brings me back to like mentorship, because you were talking about having like wise counsel around you, right? And it's very interesting because even Tyrone and I, we we're execs of an organization here on campus at the University of Akron called Collegiate 100. Tyrone is the president, and I'm the vice president. And for us, we very much see that we have, again, by no means are we wise or wiser than anybody our age, but we have some things that we'd love to pour in people even our own age, right? And we find it very fulfilling because we know that without this kind of counsel, like, these guys they're aimless. They're aimless, right? We want to make sure our own brothers are able to, have people around them who are able to guide them in the right direction. And just like what you just said, paying that forward, it feels good because we know, okay, that's going to help them, and then they might do that in the future. And the people they help, they're going to do that in the future. It is very interesting. Again, like Tyrone, it doubles, and then what it does for us, it doubles. It just multiplies.
Absolutely.
And I absolutely love that. So in terms of kind of what Chris is doing in this current season, because I love when you talk about the season. You're talking about back in the day with the solid season. So I'm curious, what is Chris King doing right now? As much as you want to talk about in Chris King's current season, what does that entail? And then maybe what is again, obviously it's up to God, but what is a season that you can see on the horizon?
Oh man, so many different things. Some things I could tell y'all like personally, but some things I'm in that shut up mode, right?
Yeah.
But to be honest, man, I think God's he's really training me. He's really still training me, and I think, to be honest, I think it's getting really close. It's getting really close to time. He's like, all right, training's over. It's game time, right? So right now, I'm coaching, right? We're actually in the playoffs. We're in round 3 next week. So hopefully we got to get to that state championship. But really just pouring into them kids, right? Pouring into them young men and trying to, one, build them up as men of God at that. And then 2, also like making sure they're the best athletes that they can be, right? And having fun while we do it, right? I'm big on like energy. So, man, I'm really pouring into them kids. And I think that's definitely where God has for me, right? If you look at my social media, I kind of like changed my content a little bit. So he has me kind of really pouring into people more, right? Part of my purpose is building up kings, right? I got that prophetic word maybe a year or 2 ago, and it's time I start being even more intentional about that, right? So I'm gonna start encouraging more. I'm gonna start uplifting more. I'm gonna start holding more people accountable and really like raising the bar. What it means to be a man. Not this whole red pill and this and that and stuff. No, like, what does it mean to be a man of God, right? And how to maneuver in this world, right? And not to be like no lame guy or no like, you know, stiff neck or nothing, to
Right.
look the part, right? To be, you know, have the other aspects as well, but to live your life according to God. That's just part of my purpose right now. Also working on books. Man, I've been writing, bro. Working on books. I've been working on my poetry as well. Working on my art. I just had an art show that I did in November. Went great, right? So I still want to kind of continue to build up them skills. The law thing, man, God is been teaching me, right, to how to practice law, to how to give people good counsel, right? We talk about wise counsel and good counsel. I firmly believe now that's why God made me go to law school. Because if you would have asked me like in undergrad, I just said it because it sounded good, right? I never really intended on going to law school. And then God was like, all right, NFL's over. I need you to go to law school. And I was like, man, I kind of don't want to. And he was like, no, I need you to go though, right? So I went and he taught me how to argue. He taught me how to relate my thoughts. He taught me how to be even a better public speaker. He taught me how to act to a certain extent, right? Because you know, when you're on that in the courtroom, you kind of have to act a little bit, right? So like he taught me certain skills that I think is gonna, man, I think he's gonna use in a huge way down the line, right? So like I said, it was foundational, right? Before the seasons I was in. Now it's almost like putting on my armor and getting ready, right? It's like putting on my armor and getting ready, right? Making sure my sword comes out right, making sure I got the shield, making sure my helmet fits, like making sure we almost game time ready, right? Because I really believe, man, when it hits, man, it's gonna hit, right? And I'm gonna have so many different opportunities, not just for myself and my family, but to put people on, right? And to pour into people and to let, hey man, come over here. I need you to do this. I need you to help out with this or this, and really get that ball rolling, man. And it's really just a matter of time. It's really just a matter of time.
That's real, and I'm excited to see all the things you're talking about, Chris. And again, like you mentioned, we're seeing the stuff on the Instagram. So again, props to you. And I know these kids are they're going to be so thankful for the things that you did for them and poured into them. That again, it's going to be double. They're going to want to do that for the future generation. And I absolutely love that, and I admire that. We admire that. So as we wrap up here, I have one last question before we move to the fire round of questions. Again, they're super easy. But in terms of again, all these things that you're doing, what we love to tell people here at FLI is that yes, again, we teach the financial literacy, we teach the money and how to manage it. Cool. But I think, and I was even talking to Tyrone about this morning, is that like before even managing money, I love to tell people like you need to understand how to manage your time. Because if I was to ask anybody, what's more important, time or money? And I say time. And then they say money. No one raised their hand. It's like, duh. But then now you're telling me, how do I manage my budget? And yet you don't use a calendar, right? And the reason I ask this question is because, again, you're doing all these things. I'm curious, like how are you able, yes, obviously God is in your corner, you're killing it. But then also, too, God helps those who help themselves. Right. So clearly you must be doing something. What makes Chris King so efficient? Are you having just like a fire calendar system? Do you have like an assistant? Like, what are you doing to make sure you're optimizing and maximizing to your best efficiency of all these things that you're doing?
Yeah. And I think I can still grow in that, to be honest. I know I can. Okay. I can still grow in that area. I'm not like a huge calendar guy, right? Even in undergrad, doing all the things I did, I wasn't huge like on a calendar. So like for me, I guess God was just kind of bringing it to my memory and I would just knock them out. But I kind of developed this thing in undergrad to where it was like, in pledging and doing all that stuff too, I understood like, man, when it's time to do one thing, it's time to do that one thing, right? And be all in it when you're doing that one thing, right? Don't worry about family life. Don't worry about football. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. When you're there, when you're present, do that and dominate it, right? So like now, where I'm at and just the whole time management is extremely important, right? Extremely important. And I think you should understand what's priority first, right? As a man, you're trying to manage your time. What's the priority, right? For me, is spending time with God. It's going to the office and building up our brand as lawyers, right? And pointing to the kids. Those are my first three things, right? I have to make sure I do those things in some facet, right? Next would be the art, the acting, the modeling, and the content. Well, the content is kind of almost getting to the first one, but you know what I mean? Like I have them separated by like tiers of like, what do I need to make sure I do, what comes after, and what comes after that, right? definitely take time for yourself, right? When it's time to rest, it's time to rest, right? I'm not this person on, oh man, you gotta stay up 12 hours, like, you know, whatever. You can't go to sleep, right? No, rest, yes, you have to rest. Sleep, that's another thing, right? There's a difference between sleep and rest.
Right.
Sleeping, you're just leisurely, you know, snoozing out. Rest, you're doing that so you can be as efficient as possible.
Even God had a day of rest, yo. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I think that time management is really important, man. And like I said, I've learned to get better with my calendar, to be like, all right, man, do this, do this. I need to get better at saying no to certain things. I've gotten better, but I need to get even better at it, right? Because I just sometimes I just want to do everything, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you just can't, right? And I think you also have to understand, and this one's probably the most important thing in time management, is especially when you do a lot of different things, is understanding the season you're in.
Yes.
Right. So like certain seasons require certain things, right? There's a season where like art kind of takes off and I have to kind of focus more on that. There's a season where obviously football season, I need to focus more on pouring into these kids, right? Like, so there's certain seasons where I do a lot of different things, but one might kind of take off and the other might slow down. And then it might change. And then another one might pop up. And then another one might pop up, right? So like I have a lot of auditions and stuff that comes in that I would love to do, but I can't do because it's going to take away from either the law or the kids, right? And not that I wouldn't love to do those things, but until that state championship on December 9th happens, I'm booked. Like I can't do anything, right? I'm committed to this, right? You have to be present. You have to be committed to what you said you are, right? And then just kind of learn on the go as you continue to do that. To be honest, a lot of life, I know a lot of times, you know, people on Instagram and stuff, they make it seem like, bro, we all have it all together. We don't. We don't. We're all learning as we go, right? That's a part of being a human, right? We're all learning as we go. So I would just say, learn well and don't get discouraged, right? Some things might fall through the cracks. Acknowledge it. You know, make the adjustments, make the halftime adjustments, and then go back into it. And then go back into it and you know, hit it running.
Right. Yeah. No, again, for our listeners who just heard that was fire. And to sum that up, really learn, don't get discouraged if you're failing, don't get discouraged if it's not perfect, because that's part of the process. It really is part of the process. Right? That is how you get better. So I appreciate that, Chris. And, you know, again, for our last 3 questions, which again, this podcast has just been heat. So I'm excited to hear, you know, these 3 questions answers. But again, super easy. In terms of our first one, exactly. In terms of our first one, you know, as 2022 comes to an end, what is one goal that you're really looking to execute and finish either in 2022, or what is one goal you're looking to embark on a crazy, amazing journey on in 2023?
I'm gonna keep it real.
Okay.
The one I wanna, man, I want to kill this whole lust thing. And when I say kill lust, I don't mean like the blessing of desiring a woman. I mean like the porn, the masturbation. Like that's been always a battle for me. Some days I'm rolling, some months I'm rolling, some months it's off. Like what the heck you doing? I think it's time. I think in order for me to really become everything that God has for me, I gotta kill it, bro. Like I just gotta kill it. So I'm in this position of like, with this the end of this last quarter, man, I'm trying to go out strong and kind of build some momentum in for 2023, right?
That's awesome.
It's not and I don't want to say like I'm just like going crazy about it to where I'm like paying money and all this crazy, but that time I find myself when I'm more creative, when God's giving me ideas, when I'm focused, right? When I start getting distracted by porn or this or that, it's like the ideas don't come, right? It's like the creativity don't flow as easy, right? So like, man, I don't want to lose it, right? So I'm like, man, and one of my biggest fears is I never want God to be like, all right, I'm gonna take my hand off you. That scares me, right? So like, nah, I gotta make sure I'm doing my best. I'm giving him my best. Does that mean I'm never gonna slip up? No, but I gotta make sure I'm giving him my best. So that's one kind of goal I'm kind of focused on going into 2023.
Yeah, that's real, and I appreciate that. No, that's so real. That's so real. I appreciate that so much. No, I appreciate that. So in terms, wow, that was good. In terms of the second question, again, we love here at FLA, we love reading books. We love, tapping into the knowledge that people spent their lives writing, right? Because I think with books, you can literally bypass so many things just by reading and tapping into a solid book. So I guess the second question is, what is one book that you really recommend to our listeners? Whether it's financial, mindset, motivation, whatever it is, what is that one book they're like, guys, you need to read this?
You could probably guess this. I don't want to. I really don't want to get too spiritual,
I was
bro.
about to say, I'm already knowing.
Honestly, bro, it's the Bible.
Yeah.
Like and I know it's not the most. And I'm gonna keep it a buck, right? Every chapter in there, some is a little, mind blowing. You be like, bro, I don't know what they're talking about, right? But man, like when I tell you, literally from a verse to a chapter to a whole book, bro, it could change your life. Like I don't think people really understand it, because it's like, oh man, you read the Bible, okay, cool, man. I don't understand all the language and the this or the this, bro. When I tell you, it will change your life, bro. It would literally change your life. It like, and I know that's I'm doing a disservice, right? But man, like the lessons, all the principles that successful people have, and how to get rich, or how to be a successful husband, and how to do that, it all stems from the Bible. Everything, if I'm being honest, and I'm not knocking all these things, I think they're great tools, but everything's a cheap copy of the Bible. Everything. The Bible has the best love story that was ever created. It has all the principles. It has wisdom. It has knowledge. It has how you carry yourself as a husband, how to carry yourself as a man. It has time management. It has money management. It has being a good steward over things. It has being a warrior, being a soldier, right? To not fear. Faith, bro. It has everything that you possibly need. It has in there, right? And look, if you have trouble reading it, get with somebody, get with a brother, get with somebody that can sit there and say, well, hey, man, let's just go over one chapter and let's just talk about it, right? We don't have to go through 10 verses or whatever. Let's pick one verse and let's really talk about it, and then pray about it, and then meditate on that day and night, and watch how God takes the lesson that you read. Watch how he allows it to like come to life in your life. Right? Because here's the difference. If you just read the Bible for like intellectually, right? It's words on the page. You may understand it, but chances are you probably won't, because it's just words on the page. Until you invite the Holy Spirit to move in your life, to make those words come to life, bro, you're going to be like, how was I doing life without this? Right? It's going to take you to a whole nother level.
Wow. That is absolutely amazing, because I'm yet to read the Bible, but I know one of the things that I really want to tap into in 2023, especially within the standard too, is getting and tapping more into my passive worship. Because for me, I love how Hafiz talks about this, like the active and passive worship, right? And I feel like I walk in my active, but I really want to, tap into and, kind of grow in my passive. And something I'm super excited to even bring to the standard is just, hey, maybe those guys who are very much grounded in their spirituality, can we do like once a week Bible study, right? For the 52 weeks out of the year?
Can we do like, let's do it.
You know what I'm saying? Like an hour out of the week. Can we dissect into the Bible for just 1 hour out of the week for 52 weeks? So that by the end of the year, like we're going through this, and the people who really need this spirituality growth, like we're getting it from the best people in the group. So I love that, and I'm so prepared to bring that up to the standard. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, that was real.
That was so real. And in terms of our last question, just the easiest one, for the people who've seriously resonated with this, and even to people who just want to connect with you, right? Where can our followers find you? Whether it's, on a website, or whether it's on, your apps, anywhere, where can our followers connect with you?
Yeah, man. You can follow me on Instagram, Christ is King ESQ, TikTok, Christ is King ESQ, YouTube, The King Experience. I have a lot of content out there. Those are probably the three main things I kind of post on and kind of just, give good content with. Eventually, there's going to be a lot of fitness things. I got a website. It's in my link in my bio. There's going to be a whole lot of different things coming real soon. So just tap in. And man, I'm a very accessible person to a certain extent, right? I try to respond to all my DMs. Sometimes it gets crazy, but especially if need some advice or some guidance, or just somebody to pour into you or pray for you, bro, I'm always there, bro. So reach out to me. We could try to make something work. Like I said, I'm still doing the time management stuff too, but I'm always down to build up Kings and to assist in any way I possibly can. So TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, not so much on Twitter, but TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. That's the main three for me.
No, that's great. Thank you. Again, for our listeners, make sure you connect with Chris King, an awesome, amazing individual. I think this is one of my most eye-opening podcasts we've ever shot, and I'm super excited to capitalize on a lot of things we talked about. And again, even Tyrone, thank you so much for being a part of this. Where can our followers find you?
You guys can follow me on Instagram _Ty.Johnson_. That's literally the only social media that I use right now. So that's where y'all can find me at.
Yeah, no, 100%. I love it. And even for me, I don't have, as you guys know, or at least Tyrone knows, I don't really have any personal social media like that other than like LinkedIn. So again, for our followers, if you made it this far, you can connect with me on LinkedIn at Olayinka Famadou. Again, my O has a dot under it. So if you look Famadou up, most likely you'll find me. But again, we had an amazing guest tonight. Chris, we appreciate you. And man, I'm looking forward to what 2023 is to come for us. So again, we appreciate you so much. And again, for our listeners, this was On the Fly Podcast, the Financial Literacy Podcast. Thank you.